Hey, this is Chuck, and you are listening to Fans with Bands, the podcast where we talk to the fans and the bands they dig about life, music, and whatever the hell else we want to talk about. Today on Fans with Bands, we are talking to Chris DuPont. Check it out. Hey, this is Chuck with Fans with Bands, and I'm talking to Chris DuPont and fan Adam. How are you guys doing?
Doing really good, man. Thanks for having me.
Awesome.
Doing good. Thank you.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you guys so much for joining. It's, even though it's Zoom, and I know we're probably all getting Zoom fatigue after a year of pandemicing and not being able to be together, it's still cool to be able to see you guys and have a little chat. So I usually like to start things off with the fans and see like how they became fans of the artist, in this case, Chris. So Adam, how did you become a fan of Chris?
So basically, I met Chris at a couple outdoor concerts and a couple indoor concerts here in Detroit when he came down. And then we found out that we were both church music directors. So we kind of hit it off there.
Very nice. Very nice. Do you remember what shows those were? Was it church related or was it not?
I don't think so. They were mostly young adult related. One of them was actually in a pastor's patio backyard.
Oh,
in Royal Oak. Yep, Royal Oak.
Oh, I remember. Oh, I'm so glad you were at that. That's what's funny is that another fan of mine. His name's now Father Drew. But I knew him when he was just Drew, and we met in college, and he's just been a longtime fan. And then I feel like I just blinked an eye, and he was wearing a collar, and I didn't realize that had been going on. And Drew's actually just a huge sweetheart and always has been. And then he remained a fan, and when he got posted at a church, he like hired me in to do a couple concerts, and I was thinking, okay, do you want me to like sing like a hymn or something at the end? He's like, no, I just want you to do your thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I was like, should I like watch my language? He's like, I don't care, just come do your thing. And so I played on like a pastor's patio, and I played in like a church narthex, and it was actually like a couple of my favorite shows, Adam, like those shows you're referring to, because like and it's one thing I've really been grateful for, is that my music seems to go over really well, like with people that have no faith background, and it also goes like strangely well with like church ladies. I don't know what. Maybe it's just reeking of wholesomeness, but like those are a couple of really memorable shows. And Adam's continued to be a great friend, and here and there we'll like swap music resources, and I've come and been a guest at the church he works at a couple times, and it's been great keeping in touch.
Very cool. Very cool. That's awesome. So Chris, your new album Floodplains came out recently. I had the pleasure of getting to listen to it a little bit in advance, and I was totally blown away. I think it's probably one of the best. I mean, I've loved your music, from day one when I first met you years ago after seeing you. I think first time I saw you was you were playing guitar with Abigail Stouffer at Top of the Park. And then I saw you again with Francis Luca Cord at Johnny's Speakeasy. But anyway, this new album, so fantastic. I just can't tell you how much I love it. But I have a question about it, and that is the music. I mean, the arrangements, your performance is really good, but from listening to the lyrics and also reading interviews you've done, it's clear that the subject matter is difficult. Talking about difficult times you've gone through, and I'm wondering, do you have any sense of like when you perform these live, any difficulty, any like kind of reliving any of those emotions, or is it more of a cathartic experience where you're kind of releasing what you had gone through?
Oh, wow. That's such a parade of kind words and wonderful questions. So in a sense, it's a little bit of both, but strangely, I will say the material on Floodplains mostly feels great to perform. Most of it feels cathartic, Most of it feels like a release, and thankfully there isn't a whole lot of what you could call retriggering going on. And I think that's for a couple of reasons. For one thing, I've always been drawn to slower music and ballads and really intimate songs. And with Floodplains, even though that intimacy is still there and
Yeah.
that tenderness is still there, I feel like there's a lot more energy on this record than my previous endeavors. Like you've got Retrieve that's very aggressive. You've got Jacket and Buried that are more bouncy. And
Mhm.
even the slower songs like Sandpaper Hymn definitely have like an edge. There's like stuff I can dig my teeth into when I'm performing.
Right.
So since the songs themselves feel like they have momentum and an energy that pushes them forward rhythmically,
Mhm.
they are much easier to get through than even my past records were, because though the subject matter is much heavier, I feel I get a lot more joy out of playing them. They're also a little more difficult to play and sing. Like they're not written at 70% of my talent level. They're written at like 102% of my talent level. So I have to stay on my toes, and that's a big joy. So I feel like the content of the music is enjoyable and intriguing enough to me that I don't really get bogged down in sorrow.
That's good. That's good. And I was wondering, because it seems like your guitar playing's gone up just a notch as far as like what you're doing, and I was curious, like, was that a conscious effort on your part, or was it just like you were trying to craft these songs, and to get the song you wanted, you had to like dig in and find a way to make it happen?
Oh man, I love your questions. So, um, it's sort of a yes or no answer because I've actually always been primarily a guitar player. And what's funny is before I was Chris DuPont, I was always a sideman. Like you've seen me play for other
Yep.
artists. I
Yep.
love playing for other artists. I've been in bands as a showy guitar player, and I became a solo artist kind of by accident. Back when MySpace existed, my little demos started getting me good bookings, and I had to figure out how to perform. So in my record Outlier, which is back in 2015, I was really purposely calming down what I could do on the guitar to focus on trying to be a lyricist and a singer to try and grow
Gotcha.
in that way. And for Floodplains, I kind of just said, screw it. I don't care. Like I don't really care if I'm known as a writer or a guitar player or a singer, and depending on who you talk to, it can be any of them.
Yeah.
I just decided I love to play the guitar. I get excited about busy guitar work. So I kind of just took my filter off. I stopped stripping things down.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, so there definitely are songs like Retrieve that took
I love that song, by the way.
thank you. Thank you. That one took very conscious guitar engineering to write
Yeah.
because there's all these wacky pull-offs and harmonic parts, and there's lots of math to figure out how to make it work. So there were songs where there was a very concerted effort to make the guitar playing a step further from what I've done before. And then there are other songs where I just stopped calming it down. So hopefully overall it ended up, leveling out to be a fun guitar record.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is. I mean, and like we touched on a little earlier, it's got lots of dimensions. You've got lots of cool arrangements in there that make the songs. Nothing wrong with your earlier music, but I feel like this is again like kind of a step up because of those arrangements are really full. And I was wondering, was it Nick that worked with you from Francis Luca Chord?
Yes, it was. Yeah, he's phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah, he's awesome. So we've got Mary has joined. Mary, can you hear us?
Definitely can, yes.
All right. So Mary, we got Adam's story as far as how he became a fan of Chris. How did you become a fan of Chris DuPont?
Oh, we met through church, and he sang a song that resonated in my life, and it resonated in his, and I talked to him about it, and that's where it started.
Awesome. How long ago was that?
I don't know, going on close to 2 years, maybe?
Oh, very
I don't
cool.
know. I'm
Very
guessing.
cool.
About 2 years. And Mary's also just primarily a dear friend, and we've both also kind of, if you don't mind my saying, Mary, we've like walked side by side through some fascinating like family grief stuff at the same time. So we've been coffee pals through a lot of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What a friend.
Nice. Very cool. You got to have good friends in life. That's for sure. You can't do it by yourself, man.
It'll suck.
yeah, exactly. So with Fans with Bands, I like to turn it around to the fans to see if they have any questions and let you guys ask Chris things. So Adam or Mary, do you guys have any questions you want to ask Chris? And it's okay if you don't. I can keep running.
Not really a question, but maybe a comment. Chris, I'm about 25% of the way through The Buried Giant right now. And I can see some connections with the song. Am I going to keep finding more and more?
Oh, that's a great question. You will. You definitely will. So she's referring to The Buried Giant by Kazuo Ishiguro, who was a Nobel Prize winner in literature. He wrote this novel called The Buried Giant, which is about generational trauma, really, and it's about sort of a post-Arthurian Britain.
Oh.
And it's written in this age of dragons and pixies and giants and stuff. And it's funny because Ishiguro uses genre, but it's never not an Ishiguro novel. He always uses genre merely as a vehicle to tell a story about memory and the human heart and mind. And I was so taken by this book that I kind of turned Buried into something of a book report with chords. So I very directly reference spots in the book because it talks a lot about it asks a lot of questions about memory and the unreliability of memory and what happens to memory when a whole culture goes through a collective trauma. And it also asks a lot of questions about death and the afterlife and what's after this, and is there hope beyond that, that road that we all have to walk alone. And so yeah, I think you'll find that the last verse of the song is kind of based around the final chapter of that book. And there's sort of this feeling I got after reading that book that just haunted me for days, and I had to just reread the whole book again. So I think you will keep seeing stuff that will bring back certain lines of that tune for sure.
Oh, now I got to check this book out.
We'll get you.
That's awesome. So was it like, it sounds like the book and your songwriting for Floodplains were going on at the same time. Did you feel that it was, it sounds like it was having some influence on you? Were there other influences that were going on? I mean, besides the personal stories that you're reflecting, but other books or things you were listening to that were kind of feeding your creativity?
Oh, I love that question. So there are a couple authors that fed into my ideas for the record. So Floodplains was initially going to be a record about memory. And in many ways, that's what happened. A lot of these songs are my retellings of things. Sometimes they are my delusional retellings of things, my exaggerated retellings. And I leaned into that because human memory is just such a tricky beast.
Yeah.
And what got me thinking about that and fascinated with that was partially the novels of Ishiguro, The Buried Giant, and all his others too. I'm sort of an obsessive reader where if I find an author I like, I buy everything they have and I stay on a kick. So I was reading Ishiguro, and I was also reading this novelist Jesse Ball, who is sort of a modern day Franz Kafka kind of guy, but
Oh, really?
yeah, but with more of a narrative. Like it's not as chaotic, but there is a lot of a lot of the absurd makes its way into the plots, and he asks lots of questions about memory as well. He had a book called Silence Once Begun, which was a novel that was written as if it was investigative journalism.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a series of interviews with the family members of this deceased character. And the interviews felt so real to me. And I was convinced that it was historical fiction, but it's not.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And this book asks a lot of questions about memory and truth and personal truth. And that stuck with me as well. So these two novelists really left a big mark on my writing. And musically speaking, I was really high off Carrie and Lowell by Sufjan Stevens, of course.
Yeah.
And that record, not just as a album, but also as a body of work, because if you ever see Sufjan Stevens live, the album Carrie and Lowell is very acoustic, very, very calm. And there's these little moments where you think they might veer into like This Will Destroy You post-rock territory, and it never goes there.
Right.
Until you go to the live show and they do it.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Now that would be cool.
Yes. So like, where on the record they sort of imply with washy guitars that maybe a post-rock breakdown is coming, but it doesn't. You go to the live show and the drummer is just going through blast beats for 6 minutes solid.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, that experience really shaped some of Floodplains, just this idea of doing what you feel like doing.
Yeah.
And seeing if it works later. So yeah, I mean, Julia Cameron, who wrote The Artist's Way, a lot of her ideas about creating art before you judge it definitely made its way into Floodplains.
Very cool. Awesome. I love it when you kind of get some of the story behind the music, as far as what may have played and influenced it, whether it's what you had for breakfast, or you love bacon, so you have a song about bacon or something.
You can find it anywhere. It doesn't always have to be devastating.
All right. So any other questions, Adam or Mary? No.
Chris,
No?
I was wondering if you could go into a little bit deeper. I did see your Instagram stories when you were doing the behind the scenes of each track off of your album. I was wondering if you can dig a little bit more deeper into the Sandpaper Hymn. That one struck out to me.
Wow, thanks for saying that. As you know, I could talk about Sandpaper Hymn till tomorrow. So I wrote Sandpaper Hymn as something of a song that was written during the death of a marriage. And I think I did try to think of some stuff that's not in that write-up that I put up. Oh goodness. Yeah, it's about the death of a relationship and sort of that feeling of kind of desolation and feeling like a loss is on its way, and sort of feeling like stooped over and closed in and not knowing what your life is going to look like next. And as I was writing this song, I had to during the end of a marriage or the change of a family shape, you have to spend a whole lot of time with yourself, a whole lot of time dealing with me, with this guy right here. What am I going to turn into? Because there's no sense entering into another partnership if you're still perpetuating the same problems that you were responsible for in the first place. And so a lot of Sandpaper Hymn was a good look at me. It wasn't as much a look at this partner, but a look at myself. And there's moments of just feeling betrayed, like how could you ignore the good that I've done? But then I also had to acknowledge some of my own garbage. There's a line in there that I'm sure my family's less than stoked about, but it's a song about friends reaching out for help and you're avoiding them because you're ashamed. And I'm keeping just out of reach of friends who want to help me. I know they see me for what I am and have no heart to tell me. And then I have this line: I am the circularity of my father's speech and flashes of a mother's rage at every water breach. And what I'm talking about is the fact that my father and I literally talk in circles. It's a thing that we do. And you're either we're DuPonts. You love us or you hate us because and then Mother's Rage. My mom is just like this go-getter power woman, just fierce. Like she's like 5'1" of pure fury. And she has this way of really sticking to her principles. And when I talk about every water breach, I'm talking about the idea of a ship being watertight. My mom like really wants watertight truth. And if she sees a breach in the hull, she is just furious. And so I'm sort of this mix of the two of them, where I am sort of a chameleon, something of a person who blends in and likes to tell people what they want to hear, but I'm also someone who can really see in intense blacks and whites sometimes, and I have a very hard time living in the gray. And I was staring down the barrel of being someone who was basically a professional Christian, which is a really difficult place to be. And I was grappling with that and not sure if that was something I wanted to carry much longer. And both my ex-wife and I, both of us were in ministry. Both of us were music directors at churches, and we were very publicly doing this work. And so I was like, what's going to happen to me? What's my community going to say? Speaking of talking in circles, Adam, were there like certain spots that you wanted to hear more about? Like, I'm curious to hear if I'm answering the question or if I'm dodging it.
No, you're answering the question perfectly. I haven't listened to the album since I purchased it. I mean, I've listened to it once, but I really haven't delved deep into it. I just recall seeing that Instagram story. So it was like, I wish you could go a little bit more deeper.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's a lot about just like trying to heal up and trying to let that grief turn you into something better rather than turning into a grouchy old man,
Where did the title come from? Because I imagine a sandpaper hymn being something that's reshaping, but it's a reshaping spiritually is how I kind of took the title, but I wasn't sure if that's where it came from.
Very much so. Very much so. So the hymn part is referring to the fact that it literally is structured like a hymn. 4 verses and there's no chorus. And even the melody was sort of, I tried to build it as if it was a hymn, like the melody was shaped that way. And oh my gosh, just realized I'm fidgeting with 2 sticks and I'm seeing, thank goodness this is a podcast, not a video.
Right.
The sandpaper element was, there's this line in there, like, let every splintered corner be sanded clean and round. I wanted to imagine, sometimes life feels like this massive sanding block that's just scraping and causing abrasions on your surface and taking things away. And I wanted to imagine if I'm like a chunk of wood exposed to a sanding block, like, may it make me smoother. May it make me into something that's not going to scrape people, not going to unravel people's sweaters when they walk by. So yeah, very literally like a spiritual and emotional reforming. That's I'm really glad that came through.
Cool. Mary, Adam, you guys got any other questions, or I'll run with it? Good. All right, cool. So, Chris, I'd like to kind of get the origin story, and you talked a little bit about being, a guitar player for hire. But I think I read that you came from a hardcore background, like Christian hardcore in Grand Rapids. Is this true?
Yeah.
So that blew my mind when I read that. I was like, what the hell? Because you just seem so, very nice, calm man. And I, I'm a heavy metal hardcore, not as much hardcore, but heavy metal. And so I kind of get the where I think you're coming from, because a lot of people I know that are into more extreme musics, they tend to be just really calm, easygoing folks. And I'm just curious, like, how did you morph from hardcore into singer-songwriter that you are today?
I love this. My tastes, I mean, I've always loved heavier music, I still listen to the Deftones more often than I listen to James Taylor. I loved the Deftones and Circus Survive, and yeah, and I love just loud stuff. I love loud pop rock. I love metal, and but I was raised on Bonnie Raitt and Jim Croce and James Taylor, and like, and then my dad sang at weddings and church services to like old dusty Catholic hymnal too. So so I joined a hardcore band when I was 17, and sort of like this melodic hardcore type of band. And in the, I want to say early 2000s, there's kind of this wave of more spiritual or religiously affiliated people making punk rock and hardcore.
Yeah.
It was a fascinating scene. And what's interesting is that bands like Norma Jean and Underoath, who ended up kind of taking over the Warped Tour circuit, started out as very like kind of preachy Christian bands.
Wow.
And then eventually turned into something else. But I want to say I have all these theories as to how this came up. But in the early 2000s, a lot of the heavier punk, hardcore, and metal stuff was from Christian bands, and sort of a couple labels sprung up to make this happen, and a lot of young kids got into it because, as was the case with me, their parents were freaked out by their kids getting into drugs and rock and roll or whatever, and so you could just say, "Oh, it's a Christian band, it's a Christian festival," and your parents would be like, "Okay, fine." I think for a lot of us, we had the language of our childhood of faith, and we had this heavy music we loved, and we had to find a way to combine them. And so in West Michigan, that was happening to a crazy degree. There was a big scene for it, and
So were you playing guitar then?
yeah. Sorry, I just like went off into the into imagination land. Yeah, so I was playing guitar in this hardcore band, and actually, funny thing, I wasn't singing at all. And now I basically sing for a living, but I wasn't singing at all. And I was in this, but I loved, composing riffs and playing in this band. We traveled a bit, we recorded. And after that band split up, a couple friends and I and my sister, who was our drummer,
Cool.
we started a Screamo Band that we were kind of like Underoath light. We were like budget Taking Back Sunday, And what happened at the time was when I was in the hardcore band, like, this sounds like a joke, but I almost got kind of like I got like a come to Jesus meeting, no pun intended. I got like a kind of a disciplinary meeting because like I was listening to too much Sarah McLachlan.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like they're like, "Hey, we're not writing enough songs," and Chris is just like listening to like soft piano ballad stuff from Lilith Fair. Can you please get with the program? Because I just loved softer music. I was really into this like Jewel and Tori Amos and Casey Stratton, and
Oh, awesome. Yeah. That's all, yeah. You gotta love that too, man.
I was into that stuff, and I loved like Dashboard Confessional and like more acoustic emo, and so I made a little demo in my basement in the era of MySpace, and in Grand Rapids, The Intersection called me up to open for this artist Tony Luca, who's been on The Voice and
Oh, yeah.
great singer-songwriter. And I went, "Oh, maybe this is what I do now." So I'm getting better bookings than my bands are, which I don't know how to process. And so I just start kind of doing it. And eventually I got to open for Need to Breathe and some other cool bands like that. And mind you, I wasn't good. If anyone finds my old stuff, I will pay you to not listen to it. And then I moved to Ann Arbor, and my friend Katie Lee, who's a fantastic songwriter, took me to see Iron and Wine at the Ann Arbor Folk Festival. And I saw the way he handled his guitar and his voice and his writing, and I was like, I'm scrapping everything and I'm starting over. And I did. And then I eventually, came out with Anxious Animal and kind of turned into tender folk you see before you, but
Nice. That's awesome. So, when were you? Excuse me. When did you move here to Ann Arbor, Ipsy area?
I moved here in like 2009.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I went to the to U of M for performing arts technology for recording and composition and stayed.
Nice. Very cool. So I'm wondering, like, what do you think of the Ann Arbor Ipsy music scene? Do you feel that it's encouraging for, independent artists as a whole? Because I know that um, my own experience is mixed, especially as you get more toward the Detroit area. There seems to be less. And maybe it's just my perception, but it seems like there's less support for local artists and more at a national level. But Ann Arbor still seems to have that a little bit more of a draw for local artists. And I was wondering what you think about that. How has the music scene treated you here?
That's a great question. And I have to just preface that my perspective is going to be incomplete. But I love the Ann Arbor music scene. I've in my experience, it's been a very supportive one. Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think because now that I've been in lockdown for a year, I'm trying.
I know it's kind of hard to remember what it was like.
Am I just reliving 2017 in my head? But from what I've seen, obviously all musicians have their circles, and it can get, it can look like you've got your clique, but I've found that artists at many different levels are just incredibly kind and incredibly supportive. There's artists doing way bigger things than me that are always willing to help and always willing to lend a hand. And I think there's just generally a culture of being nice,
Yeah.
If you look at the artists in Ann Arbor that are doing the biggest stuff, you've got Wolfpack came from here, and and Theo and Joe all come from here, and their producer Tyler, who's a great artist in his own right, works with people that are national and globally known. But if you just run into Tyler and chat with him, he will stare you in the eye like you're the only person in the room. And so I found that from top to bottom, I can't think of a single jerk in the Ann Arbor music. It's really hard. I mean, everyone's doing each other solids. Like when I went and played, I had the pleasure of doing the eBird.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Holiday show with Aaron and the Ragbirds, and whether you have thousands of people following you or you're just a little startup, if you're doing something cool, Aaron and her crew want you around.
Yeah.
And I found that I've just found that to be the case, and I hope that that I act the same way. Like when I see a young artist doing something cool, I hope that I'm giving the same type of encouragement that I got, because I've always felt like Ann Arbor on the whole just had my back.
Cool.
And in Detroit, I don't know as much about what's going on in Detroit, but I know Jason Singer from Michigander just moved there.
Mm-hmm.
He's a huge sweetheart. Madeline Grant lives there. I know Jax Anderson, formerly called Flint Eastwood, is working out of Detroit, and she's, everyone I know that's doing big stuff in this area is also just a kind person. And I think that one thing that makes that very true is the personalities of the artists. I think one thing that makes Ann Arbor really special is that townies just love going to stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Ann Arbor music, Ann Arbor Summer Festival is always jam-packed.
Yep.
And we have sort of a rich heritage of people wanting to go, especially to songwriter shows. We're really lucky that exists here, because that doesn't work everywhere, being a singer-songwriter.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we've got the gem that is the Ark, which is pretty cool.
Pretty cool indeed. Yeah, we're without that place.
Yeah. So Adam, Mary, you guys got any questions, or I can keep going?
Well, not to give away my age too much here, but just wanted to let you know that I saw Jim Croce in concert
Oh, wow, cool.
long, long time ago. But Chris, when I listen to Retrieve, what pops into my head, and tell me how far off base I am, is that it's Evergreen Waltz that's gone through hell.
Whoa! Can I put that in my press sheet?
Absolutely.
You mean like thematically?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. I've never made that connection before, but now that you did, I'm obsessed. Oh, you know what? Yeah, Evergreen is like, hey, it's winter, come outside. Retrieve it. Hey, it's hell, come outside. Yes. Wow. I'm just gonna wow and think on. Yes, I agree, and I'm gonna have to go read both of them now and maybe cry a little bit. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad I made you wow, but I don't want to make you cry.
Good cry. It's all good.
Yeah. I gotta imagine it's kind of fun. I mean, to get fans' reactions to songs and find the like Mary had with that, bringing up a connection you may not have necessarily thought of or been conscious of at all, but then you go like, wow, that's really cool.
It's always cooler. I mean, I've had people come and tell me what one of my songs is about. And they'll be like, "Is it about this?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, because that's really way cooler than what I was going to say." So I love it when someone else can superimpose their own characters onto it, because usually the drama is even more fascinating, and I love getting to hear it.
That's cool. Awesome. I was curious if you so obviously been in lockdown for the pandemic for going on a year plus now. But when we can go back and go see live music, and you were offered a dream tour, who would you like to go on tour with and tour the country or the world?
So my dream tour would be either Noah Gunderson or Gregory Alan Isakov.
Oh, cool.
Both are a little lofty.
It's doable, Chris. Come on.
Yeah. Those are my two. Those would be the dream for sure.
Awesome.
If I could, even just opening like a run of 4 shows, I could go home and die a happy man.
If you were going to go see a show, who would you go see and where would you go?
Okay, well, besides those two that I would definitely go see, as mentioned before, I've always wanted to see the Deftones. I've always wanted to see Jimmy Eat World. I'd love to see like Jimmy Eat World at DTE.
Awesome.
Drinking a stout and feeling like I'm 23 again.
Adam, how about you? Where would you like to go see a show, and who would you like to go see?
Oh, man, good question. I'm big with local artists. And right now, one of them who is also a church musician has been inviting me to his concerts. And every time I get an invite, it always conflicts with my schedule.
Yeah.
But it's another local musician, Adam Pomeridas.
Oh, yeah. He's awesome. Yep.
I have always wanted to see him.
Yeah. Where would you like to go see him?
Oh, wherever he plays. Wherever he plays. Usually it's not too far from me, but
cool.
Usually probably somewhere. I think he has gigs up in Ann Arbor, I believe, somewhere.
Yeah, get him up at the ARC stage. You can sit up right up front. It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Mary, how about you? Who would you like to see and where would you like to go?
Oh my goodness. I'm going to need more time on that one.
That's all right. We can come back because I got another question for Chris, and that was, what was the first album you bought with your own money?
Oh, I think it might have been the Space Jam soundtrack.
Yes, yes.
I still love Seal. I mean,
Yeah.
I forgot. I think that is the one.
Oh my. Well, that's awesome. It's a good one. It's a good soundtrack. So nothing wrong with that. Adam, what was your first album?
Oh, jeez. It was probably some dude who won American Idol, and I just bought his album.
Awesome. Mary, how about you? What was your first album you bought?
Again, this is going to date me, but probably the soundtrack to Romeo and Juliet. Who was it? Zeffirelli? I mean, we're
Oh,
going back.
Cool.
Who directed it? I mean, I just fell in love with that album.
Awesome. Very nice. So, Chris, what are the plans going forward? Do you have any shows lined up? Are you thinking that things will open up enough so that you can get out there and do some promotion of the album?
That's a great question. I'm hoping to follow some of what I did last summer. There are lots of really COVID conscious venues in Michigan that will throw outdoor socially distanced events.
Yeah.
And provided the capacities are safe, I will do as much of that as I can. And I also am planning to do something that's inspired by Tiny Tops that Ann Arbor Summer Festival did, and do little mini backyard house shows for people. Just like actually this week, I think we're going to be putting out an announcement to let people know, if you'd like a little serenade in which I am at least 20 feet away from you, and
Yeah.
backyard stuff, because like this music really thrives in that way. And so I think that'll be that is the hope, is to do at least some like safe outdoor mini touring this summer for
Cool.
sure.
Cool. Do you think you'll pull in a full band, or will it just be solo or a mix?
It'll be a mix. I mean, for outdoor stuff, it'll likely be me and our cellist, and then maybe like another singer who plays a stringed instrument, and keep like kind of a chamber feel.
Yeah.
I'll do some solo stuff as well. I kind of want to do full band stuff when we can have a stage,
Yeah.
when we can be loud and pump our fists and
Awesome. So when you're not making music and thinking about music, what is a passion, another passion in your life, creatively?
Oh goodness. I don't know if this is creative, but I skateboard now.
Oh, really?
I mean, if you can't tell by everything about me, I should have had a skateboard decades ago. But I'm longboarding a lot, and that really helps me clear my head. I actually draw and illustrate quite a bit.
Oh,
I'd
cool.
like to get better at it, but I'm a prolific doodler, and I love to draw, and I carry pens and colored pencils with me when I'm at my best. And then even just side creativity. I mean, I also, when I'm not playing guitar, I make beats, and I play with like synths and gadgets and samplers, and I love to make music that doesn't sound like me.
Awesome. And I've got oh geez, what I was going to say. Oh, I was going to ask you. So when you're doing the longboarding, have you gone to the Ann Arbor skate park at all?
The Ann Arbor Skate Park?
Yeah, over on by Vets Park.
No, I haven't been there yet. Where is it now?
It's over by Vets Park, like on I think it's Miller. Miller in Maple, that intersection right there.
Okay, I know what I'm doing this weekend.
Yeah, I went there for the opening when it first opened up, and they had like, I think Tony Hawk was there,
Oh.
bunch of different like local big name skaters and stuff. So yeah, kind of fun.
Wow, I have been told that like Tony Hawk, I ride Goofy. There's actually apparently like a normal way to have your feet on the board, like left foot in the front, and that's
Yeah.
regular, and then right foot first is Goofy. And
So have you like always wanted to, like, have you been skating your whole life, or did you just take it up because you like, I want to start skating?
I had a skateboard when I was really little, and I was just horrible at it. But I loved, being on my rollerblades or being on my skateboard, and I didn't. There was no one around me to show me how to do anything. I kind of had my driveway, and so I had always been attracted to like skater culture, and I knew a lot of. I'd run into guys like from my work as a barista. I'd run into other musicians that skateboard, and I just thought that was so cool. And I during pandemic, I just was honestly just getting really bored and lonely, and I never thought I'd be a longboard guy, but I realized that those are the best way to like cruise and go fast, and it's they have the wheels are designed in a way that keeps like a really tight grip to the pavement,
Yeah.
and so you can just get a lot of pleasure out of it just moving around. And so I just ordered one to try it and just kind of took to it like a duck to water, and I love it.
That's awesome. So I'm wondering, is it gonna have an influence on the music now?
Yeah, maybe I think so. Yeah, I think so. I'm definitely I'll have to make an EP that's just for longboarding too.
There you go. Oh,
Kind of my homework list.
yeah, for sure, man. That'd be awesome. Well, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to be here, Chris, Adam, and Mary. Really great to talk with you. And I've got just one last question for you guys. It's a little bit controversial. So, if it's too controversial, feel free to just bow out and be no opinion. That's okay.
Make it hurt, Chuck.
And the question is, pineapple or no pineapple on pizzas? Chris?
I'm fine with it.
You're fine with it. All right.
Is this supposed to be a strong yes or no?
It's all over the board, but some people are like definitely like, no, you cannot have pizza and pineapple together. No. And other people are like, oh, it's so good, savory, sweet and savory or whatever.
Wait, okay? I don't deal in absolutes. Put pineapple on my pizza and it's fine.
Would you go out of your way? Like if you had all the ingredients there, would pineapple be like one of the, you go, oh yeah, I got to have that on there?
Depending on how much bacon and barbecue sauce is.
All right. Adam, how about you?
I'm for it. I mean, you go to pizza places where they have a Hawaiian pizza.
Yeah.
If you take the pineapple off the Hawaiian pizza, then that just defeats the purpose.
That's true.
So I'm for it.
All right, cool. And Mary, how about you?
I'm a ham purist, so I'm not going to want pineapple touching it.
Yeah.
on a pizza.
Right.
But
Yep.
if you just give me ham and pineapple on a plate, that's fine, but not on my pizza.
Oh, wow. So that's a definite like line that you've created there. So Mary, I'm with you. I am not a pineapple on pizza person at all. I'm like, it's like fruit should be on pizza, period. And I don't want to mix in with any other stuff. The only fruit I need on that pizza is bacon, and then I'm good. Well, thanks again, guys, for being on Fans with Bands. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Chuck. This was a joy. Thank you, Adam and Mary, for hanging out with me. It's great to have you as friends and also have you here on the call.
Cool. All right,
pleasure.
guys.
Thank you, Chuck.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks again to Chris DuPont, as well as fans Adam and Mary, for joining me on this episode of Fans with Bands. Be sure to pick up a copy of Chris's latest album called Floodplains. It is a magnificent album that overflows with beautiful music and emotion. Keep your eyes peeled for live shows featuring Chris DuPont this summer. See the show notes for all the details and links. These are tough times for everyone in the creative industries such as music. Your support of live streaming, purchasing music, and merchandise is critical. If you can help out your local artists, please do. If you are in the Michigan area, consider following the Playing in the Detroit Area Tonight Facebook page. It is a place for fans and bands to support each other and share our combined love of music. Thank you all so much for listening. Be sure to hit subscribe on your favorite podcast service to get each and every episode of Fans with Bands. Spread the word by rating the show and leaving a comment. We want to hear what you think. You can keep in touch by following us on social media. This is a Life in Michigan production. Until next time, be well and kick out the jams.